All right, what's up, everybody? We are back here again for week number 15 of Pete's Power Rankings. Yes, for those of you who don't know, I'm going through, I'm watching 99% of all these games. I'm taking notes, keeping tabs, ranking all 32 teams, 1 through 32. It was a crazy, chaotic week as we barrel towards the playoffs, and somehow the playoff picture got more complicated. It feels like everybody was losing. I think 6 of my top 10 teams all lost this week. Lots of upsets, crazy chaos, and it's tightening up here down the finish, and it looks like it's going to be a great end to the season. But let's just hop on into it. Remember, though, these are power rankings, not the standings, but let's get into it. Our bottom tier teams 32 through 23. Okay, Carolina's still the worst team in the league. God bless them. They're awful. You got to get an offensive line if you're going to draft a rookie quarterback. I can't tell. Bryce Young really hasn't shown me much, but that offensive line is good God bad. Washington, they want to buy, but they somehow dropped down a spot because the Patriots ruining their draft pick by actually winning a game against the Steelers. Good for them. Vegas down 5 spots. If you don't score a point against the team and you can't do anything against Josh Dobbs, really, really bad, man. The Antonio Pierce chain is clearly over. Chargers all the way down here. Justin Herbert probably out for the season. What a horrible season. Burn Brandon Staley. Send him into the sun. Get rid of him. He's my least favorite coach. I hate this man so much. Please get Justin Herbert some help, or maybe just trade him to a new team and start over with a new quarterback. The Jets, I don't believe it. The Jets getting shut out at half, and they dropped 30 points on the Texans in the second half. Maybe the best Zach Wilson game we've seen in like 2 years. He was actually really good. The Jets, I know they're out of it, but maybe some life for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. Kind of wild over there. Arizona on a bye. Pittsburgh, I mean, this team is over. They still have a shot to make the playoffs because of what they did, but Mitchell Trubisky, a quarterback, I think they kind of know it. This offense was bad, and they fired Matt Canada. It's not much better, and now they lose Kenny Pickett and get Mitch Trubisky. It's a dumpster fire, man. They've lost to 2 teams that had like 16 losses combined the last 2 weeks. It's been awful. Tennessee, nice win at Miami on Monday night. The teams were like 0-7-16 since 2016 when trailing by 14 points inside of 3 minutes, and the Titans got it done. Will Levis showing some stuff after a good start, then a really bad stretch there. Looked pretty good tonight. Looked decent last week against the Colts, so I don't hate it. Saints, they beat the Panthers, but barely. God, it was awful, man. They had 7 points of offense for 3/4 of that game. They had a block punt. It was 14-3, 14-6 for most of this game. The offense tacks on a couple at the end there, but just so anemic, so awful. But let's get into our middle tier teams now, teams 22 through 16. All right, hey, yo, gabagool, Tommy DeVito in the New York Giants, winners of 3 straight. He's won 3 of his 4 starts. Really impressive for him. He comes down, leads a game-winning drive against the Packers after Saquon fumbles on what looked like was going to be a clinching run to run out that clock, kick a field goal, put away the Packers. But what grit, what tenacity. A lot of credit to Brian Dable sticking with DeVito, and he's showing you some stuff, and it's kind of like a Linsanity run right now. Chicago, a huge win against Detroit, keeping themselves alive for the playoffs, and Chicago's kind of looked good here the last few weeks. They should have beat Detroit a few weeks ago. They beat Minnesota 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, and they had a bye last week, so pretty good stretch for the Bears here. Justin Fields maybe giving them a question what to do with that first overall pick they own from Carolina. You got to draft Caleb Williams, but trade Justin Fields, got a lot of value there. Atlanta, typical Atlanta. Look good, look like they have some momentum, look like they're going to win the division. Throw away a game against Tampa Bay at home. You win that game, you're a near lock for the division. Now Tampa Bay controls their own destiny. Typical Arthur Smith, typical Atlanta Falcons. It was nice to see the offensive weapons get involved, but once again, the red zone, Desmond Ridder might be the worst quarterback in the history of the NFL when he gets into the red zone. It's good, God help us. Colts, wasn't a believer in the Colts, got kind of kicked around by the Bengals this week. Gardner Minshew's nice. The defense really isn't that good. It's just kind of, this is what the Colts are. They had a hot stretch there. I think they'd won 4 in a row and were really good on the road. It's just kind of, this is a very limited team. Jonathan Taylor's obviously out. Leaning on Zach Moss. He's okay. The wide receivers, I think, are underrated, but still, it's kind of like, yeah. Tampa Bay, just when we start doubting Baker, good job, Baker. Always comes through, always delivers, now controls destiny. Huge game at Green Bay this upcoming week. I still like this team. They shut down the running game. Not a great pass defense, but they weren't horrible. I mean, they kind of were. They were good in the red zone, though, against Atlanta. And like I said, Baker, Mike Evans, always automatic. When you start doubting on them, they always deliver. And then Seattle, I didn't hate how Seattle played. They kind of kept it close with San Francisco, division opponent, keeping them away. No Geno Smith, though. This team is just beat up, under-talented. They don't have the quarterback play. This is a couple weeks in a row now. It's just like, oh, Seattle, and their schedule is not getting any easier. Philadelphia this week at home in a must win game, or they are essentially out of the playoff race if you're really looking at things. So really tough scheduling stretch for them, and quarterback's ultimately going to be the downfall of this team. And it's 16, Green Bay. Everybody was all on the Jordan Love train. I didn't see it. I listened to some people. They watched the All-22 film. They said the 22 was not as good as the hype around him was missing throws, was not making accurate passes, not making great decisions. And he looked bad tonight against New York, had a couple of turnovers there. Just wasn't a great performance all around from the Packers. Very inaccurate throws. Had the nice touchdown at the end of the game, but couldn't get it done for them. You got to do more than scoring that. So Green Bay down at 16. They're still in this playoff hunt because kind of everybody else at the bottom all lost. So they're still around there, and the schedule isn't the toughest, but I think Green Bay's just kind of running out of gas, I think, possibly. But all right, let's get to what everybody came here for, the top 15 teams. Okay, at number 15, I got the Bengals. We kind of buried the Bengals once Joe Burrow went down. Fear not, Jake Browning steps in, and he's looked really good these last two games. Have an awesome performance on Monday night against the Jaguars, and looked really kind of sharp again for most of this game. Did throw a pick six against the Colts, but looks sharp. They actually incorporating the running game. This is the 31st ranked running offense in the league, and we've seen a lot of Joe Mixon, and we got Chase Brown, not Jamar Brown, Jamar Chase, whatever Chase is. He is running the football as the backup running back. He's looking good for them. And like I said, you still have good weapons. T. Higgins got a little bit more involved in his defense. Lovable Lou and his defense, they were much maligned for the middle part of the season. They were not good whatsoever. They're starting to turn it up here. And since he's right there in the thick of it in the AFC North, Pittsburgh doesn't have a quarterback. Cleveland looks like they might have found a quarterback, but they are right in this playoff race. They're hosting Minnesota this week, and it's a big game. Got to win this game to keep it going. For kind of both of these teams need to get a win because they are in the thick of this playoff hunt. But I really like what I see with this Cincinnati team so far under Jake Browning. It shows you how important it is to have a competent backup that you can develop, that can make reads, that can go through progressions, that can hand the football off competently. Now, we're going to see some things change a little bit here. I'm sure we're going to have tape on Jake Browning, so we're going to know it's going to be kind of what he likes, what his tendencies are. So that may see a little regression, but I think it's going to be good enough. Okay, up a spot here at number 14, the Minnesota Vikings. Look, that was maybe the worst and most painful game of football to watch. A 3-0 victory, the lowest scoring indoor game in NFL history. Unbelievable. But what's not being talked about is this is a championship level defense right now. They're 1-1 the last 2 weeks. They've given up 12 points in 2 games. That was kind of like that run that Patriots defense was on, losing 3 straight, giving up 10 or less. This is an elite defense, and Brian Flores really needs to be up for Assistant of the Year. This was the 34st ranked scoring defense last year. They do not add really any major pieces this offseason, and they're now top 5. I think they're 5th in scoring. This is incredible turnaround. An awful pass defense, now kind of an average pass defense, and an elite running game. 5th in yards, 4th in yards per carry, 4 runnings. This is a hell of a job by Brian Flores. And the Vikings, the Dobbs sanity run over. Josh Dobbs gets benched. They have no offense the entirety of the game. In comes back up Nick Mullins, who I said they should have been playing after the Denver game with Josh Dobbs. Goes right down the field, gets them the field goal, gets them the win. I think they got to turn to Mullins down the stretch. Now, the big thing is here, Jefferson comes back. He gets sent to the hospital with a hit. They're saying he avoided major injury. They're optimistic he can play this weekend in Cincinnati. But with the Packers loss, with the Rams loss, the Vikings are kind of firmly in that 6th seed right now, a game up on everybody. Now, they do have 2 with Detroit and 1 with Green Bay coming up, but that Green Bay game's at home. Minnesota's just got to find a way to get to 9 wins, and they're in the playoffs. But a great defensive team right now, and you never thought you'd say it. Lean on your defense. It does make you miss Kirk Cousins, though, because I feel like the Lions would be sweating bullets right now. Okay, number 13, up 3 spots, the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to be a Joe Flacco truther right now. What an incredible story it is. And it's like the fourth or fifth best story of the league. Any other year, and that's the number one story. Joe Flacco, 38 years old, coming in off the streets, and he's looked really good, man. He's looked really, really good. And that's kind of all this Browns team is needed on offense. The defense reset, reloaded. They looking a lot better. And they were kind of bad against LA. Not going to lie. They looked awesome this week. They looked like themselves. They kind of wish he had a bye coming up here for Cleveland because they do have some injuries for them, but they're going to grit it out, gut it through, and they're in firm control of a wild card spot right now in the AFC, and they don't really have a tough schedule, and the rest of the teams don't have a quarterback. Joe Flacco just has to be competent. He has connections with these receivers. Elijah Moore in New York last year. He's got good work. Njoku's turning into a powerhouse. That's what a good quarterback does. He finds his tight end. Njoku's a pretty good tight end. They got to run the football a little bit better, but they're still running the ball good. And Stefanski's not screwing this thing up. That was the big thing on Stefanski. Bad late games, bad in crunch situations. He is not screwing it up. And it just shows you maybe one of the worst trades in NFL history, going to get Deshaun Watson and paying him all this money, because he's not the guy and you didn't really need him. You needed a Kirk Cousins, a Dak Prescott type, a guy who's been kind of just, does what he does with weapons. He elevates the team, maybe not so much, but if you put great talent around him, he gets the most out of that talent. Now, I know Dak's been on an absolute tear this year, but coming into this year, that's the type of quarterback you were looking for. Not a guy you didn't really know anything about, who has a really bad offseason rap. But I'm a big fan of the Browns here, and I don't think you want to see this team in the AFC playoffs. Bad weather, great defensive play, and a good enough quarterback who hopefully is going to turn and not make that Joe Flacco decision. We've seen it, a couple of those picks, some bad picks. If he just can only limit that to 1 a game and maybe get that down to 0 a game, I think the Browns are really, really dangerous. Okay, number 12, I'm dropping the Texans down. They're finding themselves in a tough spot in the thick of that AFC wild card. The loss of Tank Dell really, really hurt this team. And then you lose Nico Collins on the first drive of the game this week. That's devastating against maybe the best secondary in football. Their third, fourth string guys, Robert Woods, Bobby Trees ain't getting open against Sauce Gardner and the types like them. Noah Brown, that's not happening. Dalton Schultz was also out. They were just completely outmatched, outmanned, and you get kicked in the mouth. I liked the Jets. I didn't think it was going to look like that. Nothing at halftime, and then the defense gets carved up in the second half. So kind of a reality check for the Texans. We kind of know that they were the good, bad team, but they were playing really, really good ball against teams that were kind of maybe up in this power rankings here. But we'll see how this goes. I think the loss of Tank Dell just seems to be too much for this team. You don't have a consistency with Schultz. We have to see what Nico Collins is going to look like, because if you're on your third, fourth, fifth receivers, I like CJ Stroud a lot. He's just not good enough there. Bright side, like I said, super young team. D'Amico Ryan's going to be maybe coach of the year. Definitely has a shot for that. Will Anderson's been a stud on defense. This team does a really good job stopping the run. Weren't great in the passing game. Kind of made, Zach Wilson look like, Russell Wilson in his prime. He was looking a little too good for my liking, but we're going to put the Texans down here at number 12. Okay, Rams here at 11. I'm going to keep the Rams put. I really liked what I saw from the Rams. Losing a game in overtime on the road on a punt return for a touchdown is a tough way to lose a football game. It's about as even of a game as you can play without actually getting the tie. They were really, really good in this. They started fast. They did a good job containing the Ravens offense. They had 2 big plays given up this defense, and that was it. Lamar turned it on in the second half, and that's kind of the thing. This defense isn't very good. I don't think this roster is very good. A hell of a job by Sean McVay. If they do find themselves in the playoffs, thinking he would be my coach of the year, because this team just isn't very talented whatsoever across the board. Stafford's old. He's showing some youth. He's slinging it, but he doesn't like taking the hits. He can't take the hits. Cooper Kupp ain't right. Puka Nacua has been a stud as a rookie wideout, but the defense isn't very good. The offense, you can protect Stafford, you're getting good enough out of them. Kyron Williams, awesome out of the backfield. So an A+ job from the Rams overall. Schedule isn't the best for them. They end with the 49ers. They got the Saints coming up here. It's just kind of a weird schedule for them. They get the Commanders this week. They should beat the brakes off of that team. But there's not much room to play with these NFC teams at the bottom here. So I do like the Rams a lot. I just don't know if they're going to run out of real estate to get this thing going. Great performance for them. It's unfortunate you took the loss because you'd be in a dominating spot if you could have secured that win. But sometimes someone's got to lose a football game. All right, don't look now, but the Denver Broncos just a game back of the Kansas City Chiefs here at number 10, and they've been playing awesome. Sean Payton, Russell Wilson have figured this thing out. 6-1 since week 7, tied for the best record in the league over that time frame. They've been looking really, really good, man. And they've got a defense that went from one of the worst defenses in the league, maybe historically, to like okay, they're kind of okay. They're not bad. Now, they are super reliant on forcing the turnovers, and the offense for the Broncos is kind of simple. It's a lot of checkdowns. It's a lot of swings to the running back. It's a lot of handoffs, but there ain't nobody in the business who's thrown a deep ball better over their career than Russell Wilson, and him and Sutton are guaranteed one a game. If Jared Jeudy could figure out how to catch, I think this would really help that offense a lot on those deep balls, but they're doing a really good job. Russell, everyone wanted to make fun of him. Everybody, including me, made fun of him last year. Broncos country, let's ride, all the nonsense. He has been sharp. Even when they were bad this year, he was not the problem. So huge turnaround for the Broncos, and I think they're a lock to get into the postseason here. Schedule coming up, not that difficult at all. They still got to play the Chargers again. I think they played Pittsburgh. Or did they already play Pittsburgh? Can't quite remember here, but this is a team that has a lot in front of them, not a very tough schedule ahead of them, and all around solid job. As much as I hate Sean Payton, this is a team that I think is going to be in the playoffs. Now, are they limited? Probably, but do you want to test that? I wouldn't if I'm in the AFC. So Broncos here at number 10. Okay, Jags down a spot here at number 9. It's kind of like everybody lost in front of them. Everybody was all over the place. Look, Trevor Lawrence coming back from the ankle injury. He wasn't quite right. It wasn't, it just wasn't smooth. Jags defense is a concern. They have not been great the last 2 weeks, but I've been saying it all year. I'm not that sure how good the Jaguars defense even is, but everybody in the division loses, so they don't lose any ground. They're probably still going to be hosting a playoff game. You can't trust any of these teams. You need Trevor Lawrence to get healthy. Now, it's been kind of a tough scheduling matchup. Cincinnati's on fire right now, and then they go to a Cleveland team that's found a renaissance in Joe Flacco on the road. That's a tough place to play this time of the year. And things are just kind of off. They are missing Christian Kirk for the rest of the regular season, so that's a big loss. You need kind of that second wide receiver to go with Ridley. If he's going to take the focus, you can easily hit Kirk. But Evan Ingram is emerging. He's got 2 touchdowns now after having no touchdown all of the season. He's got 3 in the last 2 weeks. Good turnaround for him. I think you got to keep riding him. You got to keep running ETN, Dearness Johnson, whoever. You just got to keep running the football. But they scored some points. They kind of made it close. They kept coming back and forth all around, and they just couldn't quite get it done. It was a weird game kind of for them in Cleveland. So Jaguars down here at number 9. I do think that they're still going to be hosting a playoff game, and the schedule's not super hard. Schedule's not super hard down the stretch. They do got to play Baltimore this week, so that is a very hard game. But after that, they got a couple of cupcakes to tune up going into the playoffs. They play Carolina, and they play maybe Tennessee's a little dangerous now. I don't know, but maybe that's all it takes for some of these teams. You're not playing great. You get a turnaround game, you get right game, and then you go into the postseason. So Jaguars here at number 9. We'll see how this keeps going. Okay, number 8, I'm going to drop the Dolphins down a spot. Look, I've had the Dolphins kind of lower than I feel like a lot of people have. Maybe not. Some people have had them pretty low. I was ready to put this team up there. All they had to do was take care of business on Monday night. You're up 14 with 5 minutes to play. I know a couple of fluky turnovers, but still, would have been good enough for me. Dolphins would have controlled their own destiny through the AFC like the Ravens do. Now, this team screams fraud. Physical teams push him around. Tyreek Hill gets nicked up. He's out most of the game. He comes back in a little bit, and it's very clear who the MVP of this team is. I don't hear none of this Tua talk. MVP Tyreek Hill seriously should have been on the table. Now it's kind of not. He's nicked up. The Dolphins lose. Now they do still have control of that 1 seed in the AFC if they can win out. But it's a tough schedule, man. They got Dallas coming up. They also have the Ravens. They close with Buffalo, who is getting hot at the right time. We've been screaming all year, I think the populace as a whole, that they don't believe in Miami. Miami plays physical teams. Miami plays on the road, outdoors, in mediocre weather. They're just not good enough to get it done. And it's very, very obvious this team is too Tyreek Hill dependent. The running game couldn't get going. The defense, who's been trending in the right direction the last few weeks, really, really struggled against Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins. That's not good whatsoever. So, Dolphins getting a little worried, man. The Bills only a few games back of that first place spot, and they already won the first matchup. A win in Miami week 18. That could be all she wrote for this Dolphins. Any hopes of a Super Bowl? Because I did think the Dolphins were dangerous. You get the AFC playoffs throughout at home on that nice grass in decent weather, and then you go to a Super Bowl in Vegas. I thought the Dolphins had danger potential, but man, just a massive, massive letdown for the Dolphins as a whole. Speaking of massive letdowns, let's talk about the Detroit Lions. Man, I wanted to punish this team so much more in the rankings, but nobody else below them wanted to win any football games whatsoever. Look, that's an unforgivable loss at the Bears. I know the Bears are playing better. I know they're trending in the right direction. This is 2 games they've been dominated by the Bears. You get beat up by Green Bay at home on Thanksgiving. You let New Orleans hang around there. You got out to a huge lead against New Orleans. You kind of dominated that game, but you let New Orleans come back. It got a little scary. The good news is for the Lions, they don't play an outdoor game for the rest of the season. They're hosting the Broncos this week. Not ideal. Broncos are getting hot. Then they go to Minnesota. Then they go to the Cowboys. And then they got Minnesota again. So it's not a great schedule for them. But like I said, Minnesota doesn't really have a quarterback. They have a good defense. So they're still going to win this division up 2 games. But I would be getting scared, man. If Minnesota wins out, they're going to win the division. Detroit, you got to get this stuff figured out. Dan Campbell, rah, 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 the kneecap biting stuff, that only goes so far. You got to be able to scheme some better stuff up. This offense is kind of not good, especially Goff when they play outdoors, which is kind of weird to say in 2023 that you're so dependent on indoor, outdoor, but that's where we are in today's football. The defense is not good. They've been bad against Justin Fields his entire career, but this is getting bad. They can't cover anybody in the secondary. They don't really rush the passer good enough at all. And this offense doesn't do anything if they can't run the football. If they can't get a ground game going to open up the play action, open up that passing game, they're just completely anemic and inept on offense. Now, let's see how they bounce back. If they beat Denver, they go into Minnesota, get that win. They beat the Cowboys. I'll be singing the Lions praises. But there's a lot left on the bone here. Kind of feels like the Dolphins of the NFC right now that, yeah, they can beat up on bad teams, but when you play a team that's maybe physical or knows you really well, you can get exposed. So that's why the Lions are here at number 7. Call me crazy. Get after me in the comments for this one. I don't love this spot here, but I'm going to put the Bills here at number 6. Look, Buffalo has an excellent point differential this season. They're over 100 plus. Not many teams are like that, man. They've had a really tough stretch here. The defense, look, great showing against a bad Kansas City offense, but still, man, they did their job after getting carved up by Philly 3 weeks ago, and they had to buy 2 weeks to kind of reset, kind of figure things out. They're sitting there at 7-6 now, right in the AFC playoff hunt, and they're the only team that has a quarterback, it feels like. Josh Allen's still a very good quarterback. Now, he's good for one of his dumb back-breaking turnovers a game now. Once a game, that's his shtick. And Sean McDermott, good Lord, man. You said some questionable things. I'm not going to focus on that. I am going to focus on your coaching decisions down the stretch. Like, what was that clock management at the end of this game? They really, really tried hard to let Kansas City go do it to them. Kansas City does go do it to them, and it gets called back on the offsides. It's just, it's crazy how we get to this point. But yeah, Buffalo, if you can keep running James Cook, I've been screaming all year, James Cook. He has an awesome game. They do good. They score 17 points against a good Kansas City defense. Schedule, little tough. Huge challenge this week. This is a massive game, must watch. Everyone turn on the TVs. Cowboys at the Bills this week. This is a huge test for both of these teams. Major, major implications all around. If the Bills can win this game, watch out Miami. They've already beat you once. They get to go to Miami week 18, like I've said. This is a dangerous team. Everybody was joking this is the most dangerous 6-6 team I've ever seen. But I think everybody's kind of quaking in their boots. I hate that I might be a little bit overreacting here because I do not trust the Bills. I haven't seen enough to trust the Bills, but they've had some fluky losses this season, and maybe the bounces are going to start going their way. The super injured defense is going to have to be next man up, figure this thing out. I want to see more consistency out of the offense and the running game, but Josh Allen is still a superhuman quarterback when he needs to be, and he just makes plays. And when the league's got no quarterbacks, it feels like currently as we stand, thanks to injury and whatever, I want to have a guy like Josh Allen. So Bills here at number 6. Okay, number 5. I got the Chiefs at 5 here. Don't scream at me. I know the Bills just beat the Chiefs. It's going to be a hard road for the Chiefs to find a way into the 1 seed, but it's not impossible. Dolphins lose a game. Baltimore loses 2. Chiefs win out. It's the Arrowhead Invitational again. Now, Kansas City is broken on offense. We saw Patrick Mahomes lashing out at the refs. You don't love to see it, but I think this has just been a culmination of an extremely frustrating year for the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been Mr. 2 minutes, Mr. Clutch, the new Tom Brady Mahomes. Give me the ball, end of the game. I'm going to go win the game. Good God, get rid of Kadarius Toney. Please. I've wanted him cut all season. He's just a bonehead. He's a cancer to this offense. He's a cancer to this team. You're paid $3 million. Line up onside, bro. He was lined up offsides on like 3 different plays, and they just didn't call it earlier in the game. Now, the defense is still really, really good. This is a good defensive unit. I know they were injured. They've got Nick Bolton back. He's a big add. He was probably their best defensive player besides Chris Jones. I think this is going to be a team that's going to have to live on their defense. They didn't have Pacheco this week. It really kind of hurt them. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon are kind of like whatever in the backfield, but Pacheco's kind of a serious threat. Travis Kelce, it feels like he's getting old. It feels like he wants to retire. He's also getting double and triple teamed because not a single person on his team at wide receiver wants to do anything. But my man, Rashee Rice, he's looked good. He needs to get the ball more. Still had a fumble, though. Kind of a bad bonehead play. This is just a really, really tough sell to believe that the Chiefs are always going to do it like they have in the past. But they're still the Chiefs. I still think they're going to win this division. I don't think Denver is going to quite catch them when they need to down the stretch here. Kansas City, you're going to have to go on the road for the first time in a playoff game with Mahomes. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. Get my man some wide receivers this offseason. Go sign somebody. Go trade for somebody. Get a veteran wide receiver to fix this group. Maybe go get Devontae Adams, but he ain't going to get traded in division. Stephon Diggs is goofy ass in Buffalo. Maybe his time's up. I don't know, but they got to get this thing figured out. I don't know if they're going to be able to, but I still think this is a good team, and they're going to play everybody close. Good team, bad team. It's hard to get the Chiefs blown out, so the Chiefs here at number 5. Number 4, I'm going to drop the Eagles down here to number 4. Say what you want about the offense. The Eagles' offense doesn't look right. Jalen Hurts clearly still dealing with a knee issue. He hasn't been that good of a passer this year. This Eagles defense is flat out bad, man. This was a great unit last year. They got the like 70 sacks on the quarterback, like an NFL record. They were a monster out there. Now, they're just flat out trash, man. They don't get to the quarterback. They do stop the run, but who the hell wants to run the football when you can throw the ball all over this secondary and you get to sit in the pocket? It was a clinic put on the Cowboys offensively. This defense is now giving up, like 10? They gave up like 10 straight touchdowns or 10 straight scoring drives. Like the last 6 drives against Frisco were touchdowns, and Dallas opened with 3 touchdowns and a field goal to start this game. Now they do get the strip sack of Dak for the pick 6, and that kind of swings them back into this game, and the offense can never get it done. I'm not super concerned about the Eagles. There's just this weird inkling that maybe they've been holding on to this. They've been hiding it, and we're about to see it now down the stretch. But I don't think that's it. I didn't think they would beat the Cowboys, but man, losing by 20 and back-to-back after being 10-1, it's a hard sell for me to super believe in this team, kind of like the Chiefs. Even though they have the pedigree, they have proven it. Unlike the Chiefs, it's only been 1 season for Sirianni, Hurts, and the Eagles. So maybe they caught lightning in a bottle. Maybe it is what it is. A.J. Brown feels like he's getting frustrated way too easily now. Had a nice game, but the fumble, Stephon Gilmore's getting in his head. Kind of feels like a spark plug. Kind of feels like a loose cannon that could possibly go off. I do still think the Eagles are in a good spot. They do control their own destiny in the NFC East. They got the Seahawks this week. If they can take care of that, you got DeVito and the Giants twice, and then the Cardinals at home. So they should win out. They should win out. It's never how it works in the NFL, and the Cowboys schedule much harder than theirs. But so home game, they're not going to get the 1 seed. It's just, I don't know, man. I feel like I need to see more. Hopefully they've been hiding it, or maybe not hopefully if you're an NFC team like everybody else, and the Eagles are just kind of whatever this year. Okay, this is maybe the hardest one I had to think between 3 and 2. I'm gonna leave the Ravens at 3. I know the Raven fans have been getting on me all year. I didn't love how they came out. They coming off the bye. They're fully rested, fully healthy, and they come out kind of flat against the Rams. Defense gives up 20 points in the first half, and the offense really didn't do anything. They hit 2 home runs to get the touchdowns. They do get the field goal at the end of the half to make it a 3-point game. I did like what I saw out of the offense in the second half. Lamar kind of turned the things on. They were able to establish more consistent drives. Lamar was making plays. And when he had to, back against the wall, he went and got them the score to tie or to take the lead in this game. And this is where I've had a real problem with this team that I don't think has been talked about enough. It's the defense of the Ravens. They've been great. Statistically, they've looked great. They beat up on bad teams. They suffocate them. But when they've been pushed, when they're in tight games, you're able to move the football against them. Like I said, coming out flat against the Rams. And then when the Rams needed 2 scores at the end of that game, right down the field to get 2 scores, get a touchdown, and then they get the field goal to send it to overtime. Now, they do get the stop in overtime after the Ravens got stopped on offense. You get the punt return, so that's nice. But really, just not a good enough performance for a team coming off a bye at home against the Rams. If you played a 20-17 game, a 20-13 game, I'd be feeling a lot better about this team. I know I have my concerns with the Ravens offense, but the thing that they've been leaning on their defense, I just don't buy it. When push comes to shove and good teams are going to want to move the football, I think they're able to against the Ravens. Now, the AFC is not very strong right now. They control their own destiny. They do have the Jags and they do have the Dolphins coming up, 2 massive games. I think they're going to get the 1 seed in the AFC, so they got some home playoff games. But Lamar hasn't been good in home playoff games. We've seen this before. I don't think he's won a home playoff game ever. So we'll see how that can turn around. I do think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC, but I think the 2 NFC teams are a cut above these 2 teams, above the AFC teams. Okay, number 2, how about them Cowboys? Dallas, wow. I didn't think I had it in me. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. I feel a little crazy for doing it. Cowboys at 2 here. What a massive, massive performance from the Cowboys. They had the second worst strength of victory of all the playoff teams in the NFL coming into this game. They needed to get a notch in their belt. They hadn't beaten anybody. They beat an okay Seattle team last week. Their defense gets shelled. Offense is awesome at home. They needed a statement performance, and boy, did they bring it. I thought the Cowboys would win this game. I took the Cowboys with the points this week. I really liked it. I think they were in a good spot, but that was a really, really dominating performance, offensively, defensively. The game was 17-3, and it felt like an insurmountable game for the Eagles. It felt like it was over. The Eagles had no chance in this game. Like, the defense was back to being the defense. Gilmore was on another one going against A.J. Brown. Micah Parsons figuring it out. He was shut down for a few weeks there, and we saw the Cowboys struggled. He was dominant against a very good offensive line. And Dak, look, Dak at home, Dak indoors, MVP type season he's having this year. CeeDee Lamb still not getting double covered. Do not get it. Start double covering CeeDee Lamb more. Maybe you'll see a little less production out of CeeDee Lamb. But Brandon Cooks has been coming on very strong. Jake Ferguson at tight end. That's something they've been really missing. Great move by not paying Dalton Schultz. You get Jake Ferguson very, very solid. He's got that edge and tenacity. The Cowboy teams kind of feel like they're missing. Like they're kind of like big Bravo showmen, but they don't feel like really, really tough. Ferguson kind of adds that. Micah Parsons sure as hell adds that. So that's an edge that the Cowboys haven't really had with some of these other really good Cowboy teams that fade out in the playoffs. Now, am I concerned about what they're going to do this week in Buffalo? Yes. You have to go win this game, or at least be really, really sharp. If you lose a really good game against Buffalo, not going to hold it against them. But if you go out to Buffalo, outdoors, cold weather, ugly kind of game, and you lose this one, lay an egg after the massive win against the Eagles, everyone's going to go back to saying the same old Cowboys, including me. But let's keep this thing going. Mike McCarthy said it was going to take a few weeks to get this offense figured out. He took control. He shoved his chips into the middle of the pot. and it's paying off for them. They are currently in the lead for the NFC East, but they don't control their destiny. Eagles win out. Eagles will win it on the tiebreakers. And the Cowboys have a real show-me schedule coming up here. Like I said, at Buffalo, huge test. Dolphins, Lions, those are the games, man. Now, maybe Sam Howell goes crazy last week of the season. Cowboys, you went out. This is legitimately the best you could feel going into the playoffs in maybe ever. Maybe ever, Cowboys. Since them 90s teams, this could be the best you should feel because they are dominating everybody, and they're great at home, and they're great indoors. Currently in the lead in the NFC playoffs, an indoor Lions team, NFC South team you're going to go on the road to. They're kind of ass, so you're going to blow them out. And if you get that 2 seed hosting 2 playoff games, now the big problem is the Cowboys are not anywhere close to the team that is currently number 1. I've never seen a gap, I don't think, as big, maybe since 2007, as there is currently with the San Francisco 49ers. Look, they weren't awesome against the Seahawks this week. Kind of, played with their food a little bit. Kind of la-di-da. Brock Purdy is basically perfect as a passer every week. Threw for 368 this week. Had a pair of touchdowns. Did throw a pick. But this 49ers team is just head and shoulders above everybody. Now, they had their hiccup with their injuries, and this is an injury-prone team. But when they have all their weapons, you have Trent Williams, you have Deebo Samuel, you have George Kittle, you have Christian McCaffrey, and you got Brock Purdy slinging the rock with Kyle Shanahan calling plays. This is unstoppable of an offense as we have ever seen in the NFL. It's too much for defenses to deal with. You just can't handle it. So if the Niners stay healthy, this is a cakewalk to the Super Bowl. But that's a big if. Like I said, Trent Williams already nicked up. Deebo already nicked up. George Kittle always gets hurt. Christian McCaffrey always gets hurt. It's a real question mark for this team. And the defense is a very good unit. Nick Bosa, Chase Young added as the pass rushers really has changed the dynamic of this defense. You have Dre Greenlaw. You have Fred Warner at the middle there. Don't love the back end of this team. You lose Mufanga, who's kind of your Swiss Army knife a few weeks ago to this for the season, so that doesn't help them. The secondary is kind of whatever. If you can sling the rock against this Niners team, I think you got a fighting shot, but it's just so hard when they're able to get after you rushing the passer. They take away the run game, and it feels like you have to score almost every possession when that offense of theirs is clicking. So San Francisco 41 for now. Let's see if they can win this thing out. Host the entire playoffs through the NFC. Another place you don't love to go through. Sloppy field, sloppy weather in Frisco. Not ideal team to play against because they're already faster and stronger than everybody. And if you slow other teams down and they're built to play in that stadium, it could get ugly. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Who am I too high on? Who am I too low on? Am I crazy to put the Cowboys in 2? What about those Buffalo Bills? Are they coming on strong? And who the hell is going to find themselves in the bottom of the AFC and NFC wild cards? Like, good Lord, it's kind of a hell show down there. Bengals coming on strong. What are we going to do? Nobody wants to take it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up, like this video. Really helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We got new sports content every single day. If you want to support the channel more, click that join button. Really helps me out a lot. You get access to early content, exclusive content, badges, emojis for the channel. Really helps me out. Support me. Keep making this great content for you guys every single day. Again, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.